what's up? I'm Kantis Simmons, the academic guru and leading authority on school improvement, as well as the author of Playing Your A Game. And welcome to another episode of Educate to Elevate. Now, in today's podcast, it's all about how to have success in your special ed program. Now, my guest today is Tamara Greenwood, and you wouldn't believe this, but I met Tamara Greenwood on a golf course. You remember that?
I do remember.
Now, this is funny because one day, if you don't know, I love playing golf, and I was just out on a 3-part golf course, and I noticed every now and then a ball was flying from another hole into my hole.
Oh, okay.
And then later on, I met with Tamara and her golf coach, and they told me that she was there working on her game. And we had a small conversation there, and I remember you was telling me that you work with special ed students. So I had to find her on the internet and get back in contact with her. But I want to welcome, if you guys would help me welcome Tamara Greenwood to the Educate to Elevate studio. How you doing?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks for inviting me.
How's your golf game since the last time?
I don't think it's improved any. It hasn't improved any, I'll be honest.
Well, at least you out there. At least you had somebody that was working with you on your craft, and I appreciate that.
This is true.
So let's get right down to it.
Okay.
I remember when I met you some years ago, you told me that you work in special ed, and I also communicated with you that I work with students and teachers. And so honestly, thank you again for after years being able to contact you and bring you to the studio. So most of the teachers and educators that I normally have on the show, they work in general ed.
Okay.
And you work in special ed.
That's right.
How did you end up in this great area of education? How did you end up in special ed? Take us back a little bit. I know you spent some years in college and grad school, but how did you get into special ed?
Well, Kantis, originally I thought I would go into the field of rehabilitation.
Okay.
Focus on teaching with people with disabilities how to become gainfully employed in the wonderful world of work. Well, it just so happens that my undergraduate professor told me about the field of blindness. And so I was interested, and he got me in contact with the university. I applied, I was accepted, and I got a scholarship to attend. And that's where I learned about how to work with blind individuals, children and adults.
So that was scholarship in grad school, or was that a scholarship?
In undergrad and grad, but the focus on blindness was in graduate school.
Okay, so you was in grad school, you learned about blindness through your professor.
Yes.
And how did that turn into a career?
Okay. Well, my university program prepared me to work with school-age children as well as adults for teaching things like Braille reading and writing, orientation and mobility skills, which means teaching people how to move safely and efficiently with their long cane if they're visually impaired. And so I was interested, and I feel like that program prepared me for my career in teaching blind and visually impaired individuals how to live safely and independently.
So you were going through this program, you was hearing more about it, and you just really wanted to help people maneuver and help them be successful in their career.
Absolutely.
How did that transition to the classroom? How did that transition to students? Because I know in our pre-conversation, you mentioned that you didn't want to be a teacher. How did that happen?
I never saw myself as a teacher. I never saw myself just teaching in front of a classroom full of people. And so that's the unique thing about this field. Though I ended up learning how to teach children age 3 through age 22 in the school setting, they also prepared me to teach adults.
Okay.
But in the school setting, I'm not in a traditional classroom. My role as an itinerant teacher is to travel to each school and see my students, and I do what we call small group or pull-out services. So I go into a classroom and I pull the kid out of the classroom and we do our lesson for the day and I put them back into the classroom. I get in my car and I go to the next school to work with the next student.
Wow, so let's talk about a typical day. Okay, a typical day. Let's start from the beginning. So what time do you check in? Is this an everyday schedule?
Yes, it's an everyday schedule. I don't see all of my students every day. Some I see once a week. Some I see a couple of times throughout the week. So, so it just varies, and it depends on each student.
How many schools are we're talking about on a typical day?
So far, probably around 3 to 4 schools a day.
So 3 to 4 schools a day. Every day is different.
Yes, yes.
This is based on the student.
That's right.
Okay, so the students that you go to see, are they in a traditional classroom, or they're in a special ed class, or what type of class are they in when you go to see them?
Well, I service all children, not just visually impaired or blind children, but children with varying exceptionality. So for some students, they receive most of their academic instruction in a general education setting.
Okay.
And then I have others that are in what we call the self-contained class all day for their instruction and access. And so I pull them and teach them how to access the general curriculum by providing modifications and accommodations.
Okay, so for those that may not know, even with myself, what is the accurate definition for someone in a special ed class? Well, if there's an accurate definition, how can someone end up in a special ed class?
Okay. Well, children have to meet eligibility to receive special ed services. So whether they participate in a gen ed setting or a self-contained setting, they have to meet eligibility. Special ed is an eligibility-based program. It is not an entitlement program. So there are certain parameters that each varying exceptionality has to qualify for before they receive services.
Okay, so you're working in this area, special ed, and with these students, you travel to these various schools. What keeps you motivated to go to each one of these schools every single day and work with these students?
My motivation is finding success in each student. Every child can do something. Every child has a strength. So I tend to try to focus on that.
Okay, so if I was a new school, or maybe there's a department, a college, or high school, middle school, elementary, that has a special ed program, what would you suggest, some practical things that every program can do to promote success within the departments?
Well, there are 4 steps that you can consider to promote success in special ed.
All right, what's number 1?
Number 1 is keep an open and flexible line of communication between the parent and the teachers, teachers to teachers, teachers to administrators. It's important that everybody be receptive and open to communication.
Okay, what's number 2?
Number 2 is address each child's individual needs. Each child should be considered based on their needs.
So you would design the curriculum around what that student needs?
Right. Sort of, I would provide modifications and accommodations.
Modifications and accommodations are based on the curriculum that's set up?
I would provide modifications and accommodations to enable the child to have access to the curriculum.
Okay, so number 2, the first one is to develop an open line of communication. That's between teacher and teacher, teacher and parent, student and parent, student and educator. What would be number 2? Well, number 2 you said was to address the individual needs of each student. What would be number 3?
Number 3 would be to establish realistic goals.
Okay, so what would be a realistic goal for students in these departments?
Okay, a realistic goal is an age-appropriate skill that a child can obtain. Each student should be able to obtain a goal that's on their developmental milestone level.
Okay, all right. And number 4?
The 4th one is to start each day with success.
Okay, so when you say start each day with success, is that teacher success, the student success? What do you mean by that?
Kind of both. That's a pretty good question. Just keep in mind that you as an educator have your own set of strengths and weaknesses, and so do children. So it's important in using your strength, developing the strength to find the child's strength and abilities and just kind of build and focus on that. And if you consider being successful each day with a child in some way, size, shape, or form, it will bring much more satisfaction and gratification.
Well, good stuff, good stuff. Hey, regardless of working in general ed or special ed, we know that all students need to be inspired. All students need to be loved. And if you specifically work in a special ed program, just to recap, make sure you have an open level of communication. Make sure it's flexible between the students and parents and the students and the teachers, the teachers. Everybody plays a great part in developing the mindset of the student. And number two, making sure that you address the individual needs of the students. A lot of times we like to group all of our students together, but it's very important that you look at the individual needs of the students that you work with. Number three, establish some realistic goals.
That's right.
Depending on what age the student may be, make sure that becomes the focus. We have some realistic goals from month to month, from school year to school year, and those things are being accomplished. And most importantly, start each day with success in mind. What does it look like? What are we focusing on? How do we measure success? And we make that the focus of everything we do at the very beginning.
That's right.
Well, Tamara, I really do appreciate you being here at Educate to Elevate. And hopefully, if you've been blessed by that, just let us know in the comments. I would love for you to subscribe to this podcast, whether you're watching this on YouTube, iTunes, a mobile device, a tablet. The best and easiest way to subscribe to this podcast is to go to educatetoelevate.tv, and it'll give you instructions how to subscribe to this podcast. And also, I would love for you to let us know what you thought about this episode today. If you work with students, work with special ed students, you would love to comment on this. Please do comment in the comments area. And if you would like to ask Tamara a question, then just go ahead and submit that question. I'll make sure that you get it and you'll be able to answer it for me, will you?
That's right.
You would? Well, again, thank you so much for watching this podcast. Remember, you are in the business of educating students so you can elevate their minds. I'm Kantis Simmons, and remember this, only one game in life counts, and that's your A game. I'll see you very soon.